Hey, what's up, family? I want to welcome you to another edition of the Courage Chronicles. I appreciate you all joining and rocking with us again. Listen, if this is your first time, do me a favor, hit that subscribe, hit that like button, share it with someone. You can catch this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Listen, I'm extremely excited, humbled today. I have a brother, a friend with me today. Y'all, he's an artist, he's a writer, he's a singer. He's a producer, a musician. He's a father. He's a husband.
A
He's a
janitor.
mentor. He's a friend. He's he's a janitor. He's all he becomes all things to all men.
Yeah, that on
So
that
he,
wind
he
song.
he's a he, there you go. He's a solid brother. He's a Grammy award winning artist. I want to introduce you all to Myron Butler. What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
I am doing well. It's always good to talk with you, bro. Just thank you for allowing me to come on and share on your platform and just share a little bit of my heart.
Absolutely, man. Honored to have you. I was looking at a clip the other day someone sent me that was kind of circulating on social media. I guess you guys were recording, preparing for the reunion tour with
Oh yeah.
God's Property and Kurt Franklin, and y'all were doing the Up Above My Head, man. Such a classic, timeless piece of music, bro.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
man. So definitely took me back to those good old '90s, man. So I
much. Come
definitely have
on.
appreciation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Good times.
man.
Those are good times.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I want to start from the beginning. I want to go back to the very beginning, your upbringing. How did it all start? Now you're born in Florida. You're a Florida
Absolutely.
boy. All
Absolutely.
right. All right. Small town in Florida. You were born in Bradenton, right?
Bradenton, Florida.
Okay.
I always have to give people the reference of Tampa so they can, because outside of that, now Sarasota's, becoming a little more popular, a popular
Yeah.
tourist destination. But yes,
Right.
born in Bradenton, born and bred in Florida, and interestingly enough, like I didn't come from a long line of musicians, singers,
Okay.
ministers, or anything. Like I am legit the only one in my family that does music, and
Really?
as growing up, was raised by my mother and my big mama.
I got you.
We all had big mama, and
Yeah.
just always in church. And I tell people, I didn't necessarily choose music. Music chose me,
I
just
love that.
because there was nothing in my environment that, you know, said that that was going to be my natural trajectory. I just
Yeah.
gravitated towards music. I remember even as a little boy, like 3, 4, 5 years old in church. I went to the St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church there in Bradenton, Florida, and I would every Sunday in church I would legit pull my seat up next to the organ player and just watch her for the
Wow.
entire service. I don't know why. I don't know what that was, but I was enamored with music. I was enamored
Yeah.
with just music inside of the church. And so started taking lessons, piano lessons, like when I was 9 years old. So I, did my rounds in the church, played for Sunshine Band, played for Sunday school, directed the youth choir and all of that.
Yeah.
But along with that, the other thing that I cannot explain to people, when I talk about my journey, is early on, songs would come to me. I had I don't know why. I didn't pray and
Yeah.
say, God, I want to be a songwriter. Legit lyrics would just come to me. And, me and my
Wow.
cousins, we'd be outside playing kickball, but then
Yeah.
I bring them in my grandmother's living room and, teach them the songs that just came to me. And so
I
I
love
had
that.
no idea even
Yeah.
what calling was. I had no idea
Mm.
what destiny or none of that was. But I also remember as a child, even I can vividly remember, like, pieces of dreams. And in these dreams, I would always see myself standing before a large group of people, and it wouldn't be long. It'd be like, "Phew," and I'd see it
Yeah.
in my mind, and I would have no way to interpret or, be able to know what that was. But as I
Wow.
grew older, I understood that it was the call of God, and God, as
Yeah.
God gives us glimpses of what
Yeah.
is to come. About 10 years old, me and my mom moved from Florida to Dallas, Texas. So, when I got to high school, went to an arts high school, went to Arts Magnus, kind of like, I may be dating myself when I say this, but the only reference I would give is like fame. Some people have no
Okay.
idea what fame is,
Okay. I
but,
got you.
just this arts high school. And so at that
Yeah.
point, that's when like the legitimate training came. And
Got you.
probably about my junior year in high school, I had, written a song, and that song was recorded by a community choir that I was a part of, the DW Mass Choir. And that was
Yeah.
on the Another Chance record. And so that was my very first song that I had recorded. And so at that point, still writing music, still, had put together a little community choir because I wanted to submit some songs to the Gospel Music Workshop of America. We did a
Okay.
little low budget local recording, all of that. And so all of that was just me making my way in music. But once again, it wasn't because anybody was forcing me. It wasn't because I
Yeah.
was trying to do what someone else did. Like that
Sure.
was, I had a hunger, a drive to just do it. I would
Yeah.
legit go to concerts and say, hey, I got a song I wrote. You want to record it? And if Yolanda,
Wow.
this was like early days of Yolanda Adams before she even recorded any of her solo albums, and Kim Burrell, that's just running into them, and I would legit be, pounding the pavement saying, hey, I got a song. You want to record it? And so that kind of was my beginning and brought me up to like my college years. Was in Atlanta at Morehouse for a little bit, was
Yeah.
there at Murphy Pace with, LaShawn Pace's brother. So just
Yeah.
always doing music. Came back, was, part of that community choir that when I was getting ready to submit songs to the Gospel Music Workshop of America, when I left to go to college, that choir continued, and when I came back, it had become, kind of what the one of the chaperones. She kind of, there was, some differences between her and one of the other chaperones. So long story less long, that choir kind of morphed into what we presently know, to be God's property. And so at
Wow.
that point, came back, was directing that choir, and kind of like the rest is history. You put out that record, and 25 years
So
later, yeah.
so what I'm not gonna let you skip past two things. So two things, because you shooting a lot of knowledge, and one thing I won't let you skip past. So let's go back to Dallas Fort Worth Choir,
Hmm.
the song that you wrote. So I
Yeah.
went and looked this song up, but I was familiar with the song. I wanted to see the video, and
You know
so
what, Devin, you're
no,
my
so
brother. You're
so
supposed to be
so
on my side.
so listen, no, listen. I met you about 10 years ago. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember. We met in Pittsburgh, and when I
Yep.
met
Yep.
you had bald head, rocking the clean like me, rocking the
Yeah.
clean bald head. On the video, so the video, I say, wait,
Wait a minute.
is did my bro have the Gumby
Yes. Look here with the Malcolm X glasses.
with the glasses?
Look here.
Oh man.
I tried my best to find every instance of that recording online and delete it because it is something that I cannot live down. I'm on the front with my choir robe on. I was the most energetic tenor. I had all the
Oh man.
energy, but I did. I had a Gumby with the Malcolm X glasses. Yes.
Man,
Yes, that is my
listen, I
beginning.
love it. I love it, man. No, I
Yes,
love it.
sir.
The other thing that I want to go back and pause on. So you talked about God's property
Mhm.
and the record. You guys did that recording in, was it 96 or 97?
Yep, yep, yeah. One of those, 96, 97.
So when I was preparing for this interview, bro, I went back and was just kind of looking at your catalog, and
Mhm.
that album. So first of all, I just got to know, did you guys have any idea when you were recording that you all would have this many classic records on that record, on that album?
Absolutely none. And Devin, I
Really?
tell you more importantly, and I think, you know, what I believe, I use this word lightly
Okay.
because I don't ever want to give the inference that there is a formula for success. But one thing that I do believe positions whatever artistic expression that you're going to present to the world is
Sure.
to have a natural, innate pureness and a motivation that has no ulterior motives.
I
At
love
that
that.
point, we had no idea what the levels of success were. When I tell you, so at that point in those days, in God's property, we would legit, I am not gaslighting, I am not making, we would legit sing it like 7 or 8 musicals in a weekend. And so at that, because we just love to sing, it was
Right,
like
right.
we, sing, 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 sing. And we were always singing somebody else's music.
Okay,
And
I got
so
you.
for us, yes, and at that point, we had the interaction or the connection with Kirk because God's Property had sang background on the What You're Looking For album. So there
Okay.
was that, and even that was the beginning of his success. Yes, while we sing,
Yeah.
it sold 1 million copies, and those kind of, but like he wasn't the Kirk Franklin that we know of today. And so at
Yeah.
that moment, it was a true, sincere, untainted, like we just want to have our songs, our own songs to sing.
Yeah.
We had no idea that it would go on to be one of the top selling gospel albums in history. Had no idea. Now, when we would rehearse, like we would legit have like knockdown, drag out, we in the floor worshiping, like it was just when I look back at it, I believe it was the perfect storm
For
because
sure.
in the sense that we had a high level or high, you know, the way we pursued music was at a like we wanted to consume music. So we're talking about
Yeah.
Power, Brecker Brothers, Manhattan Transfers, Singers Unlimited. So you had this whole, jazz fusion thing, but we were all church kids. So we all
Yeah.
grew up Kojic. We all were, Baptists. We were all, and so you had from a musicality standpoint, you had that. Then you had this youthful energy, and so I believe that it was legit. Just the perfect recipe for what God could use, to breathe upon. But
Yeah.
understanding when we were recording the record, MTV was there getting B-roll. And yeah, we was like, okay, this is MTV. And of course I'm dating myself again. But it was like this is MTV, but we were just excited about recording a record. We had no clue that it was going to
Wow.
be this impactful. And so
Wow.
and like I don't think you I but I think there's a blessing in that because I think not knowing that or being unaware or even ignorant to that allows you
Right.
not to get to the place where you think that it's you and
I like
I'm
that.
so
Yeah.
good or we
For sure.
deserve this. It's like,
For
no,
sure.
this is just what we want to share. I tell
Yeah.
people when they talk about up above my head, like, I grew up listening to old Douglas Miller, and there's a Douglas Miller a record called Sing Until Morning, and he did this other version of Up Above My Head, and it kind of had this funk thing to it, and it just and so fusing that with jazz, that's just I tell people that's just what I heard. It wasn't me
Yeah.
trying to be a thing, it wasn't me trying to emulate, it was just like this is what I hear. So,
Wow.
but to answer your question, no, we had no idea, none at all.
Man, that's amazing, man. Talk to me about Stomp because there's a lot of personal history for me. I grew up in a house where we couldn't listen to secular,
Come
we
on.
couldn't listen to hip hop, we couldn't listen to R&B. So when Stomp came out and it had what was it, Pepper or was it Salt? I get them mixed
Yep.
up. Which one of the
Oh,
so when the record came out, it was like, man, this was a whole vibe. Like we felt like we now had something that we can call our own as church
yes,
kids, right?
yes.
Um, Talk to me about the process, like after the song came out, because I can imagine there was some backlash
Oh, absolutely.
from churches, from just the church folks, like what
Yes.
is this? Like is this church music? Like
Right.
what was that like?
Well, I mean, I think it was both humbling and it was also, you know, it's kind of like you're on the chopping block. Like we were
Mm,
legit, like there were instances where we were called devils or it was devil
wow.
music, because the fact that, it was this incredibly kind of different new thing.
Hmm.
Then it had acceptance on the other side of the spectrum in mainstream. So
Yeah.
it's legit being played in clubs. It's being
Hmm.
played in all of these environments that are not church friendly. And so what
Yeah.
happens is then we have to bear the brunt of all of those accusations, of all of those, well, are y'all really saved? I legit remember going to sing. I can't remember. I would never call the church, but I remember us sitting in the green room,
Hmm.
and the pastor of the church came in. Now the pastor had invited us, but the pastor
Okay.
came in and it was like, "All right, I hope y'all really saved." And it's like, "Okay, well, how you doing?"
You're right.
So, you got all of these instances, and when I look back on it, from a mature standpoint, it was not an assault against us, the individual, but
Yeah,
it came along with the territory. It was kind of
sure.
like the double-edged sword of the
Hmm.
success because once again it had gone, that song along with other songs. So you talk about, You Brought the Sunshine. You talk about Oh Happy Day, these monumental songs that, in their
Yeah,
time went kind of way outside of the four walls of the church. And so at that point,
sure.
it naturally gets backlash. And so we were thankful in it, or we were thankful because we didn't allow that for us to shrink back.
Yeah,
Like, hey, this is what God has for us to share. Now the thing is, we'll go, we're gonna sing Stomp, and then we're gonna sing More Than I Can Bear, which is straight up
hmm,
Sunday morning. And
correct,
you
for
can't
sure,
deny that.
for
And so,
sure.
and what a lot of people don't know is that there's actually a live band version of Stomp at the end of the record. And that's actually the
Yep.
version that we liked. We preferred that version, but the other
Okay.
version is what the world wanted. And we're like, well, no, so at that point, and that's the thing, when you present art, when you use, your artistic expression and you share it
Yeah,
with the world, you have to understand that once you share it and give it, the public and the world and the
yeah.
audience interprets it however they want to, and you
However
can't
they want to.
control that. You
Right,
know,
exactly.
all you have to do is to make sure that your motive, your agenda is pure. And
Yeah,
whenever you get a chance to speak, whenever you get a chance to share it with a pure heart. And at the end of the
sure.
day, let God do the rest. And that
Yeah.
really kind of helped us kind of stay sane. It's like, I know I'm not a devil. I ain't no demon. Yeah, I love the Lord.
Right,
But
exactly.
those were legit some of the things. And when you talk about the partnership with Assault, and so it's like there y'all go, doing stuff with those devil people, and it's like, oh, okay, all right.
Wow. Wow. No, that's interesting, man. I was like I said, when I was prepping for the interview, I was really just going back through a music catalog.
Mhm.
And so my audience, the people that I'm attempting to reach with this podcast is really broad. Like it's not just musicians or
Yeah.
singers, or it's not just church people, or it's
Mhm.
because the goal is really just to inspire all people to just pursue their passion, because I always
Absolutely.
say that everybody dreams, but not everyone will find the courage to pursue it.
There
And
you
so
go.
whatever that looks like, whether you're an author, a business owner, a
Mhm.
lawyer, whatever it is, a teacher, pursue that passion. And so I want to kind of pause for a minute and talk about your catalog, because there's a lot of people that may not know all of what your hands have been on musically, bro. Like I was thinking this morning, I was like, you can't talk about the history of gospel music and not mention Myron Butler,
Wow.
because when I think about songs that have crossed over and that will be talked about years from now, like when
Yeah.
you think about Stomp, like you said,
Yeah.
Stomp was one of the few songs that you can hear in church, on the radio, or in the
Yeah.
club.
Yep.
Another record I thought about was that you were a part of, Never Would Have Made It by Marvin
Yeah.
Sapp.
Yeah.
Like people don't realize, I mean, first of all, can I just say that Thirsty is a masterclass all by itself? If we just keep it all the way a buck, as a musician, like Thirsty is a complete masterclass. But the
Thank you.
fact that you, like, just the records that you were a part of, the partnerships, from the Kurt Franklins to the, Marvin Sapp's,
Yeah.
just everybody, man. It's like your catalog is so deep, man. So I just wanted to just pause and give you your flowers for a moment, because, like I say, I just think that you'll never be able to have a real conversation about gospel music and its rich history without mentioning your name.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. I
yeah,
mean,
man. So for sure, man. You are definitely an anchor. I want to move forward and talk about Levi.
Okay.
So I know that you were with God's Property. You guys did the classic record. I
Yeah.
think I might have counted. I don't know. I don't remember how many songs were on that record, but I know that I counted 9 songs that were like straight out hits that were on the radio, just constantly in rotation. My wife and I, we went to the Kingdom tour, Kirk and Maverick, some time back, and Kirk sits down at the piano. And he started playing um the I know that I can make it. My life is in your hands,
In your hands.
and to see this arena of black people, white people, Hispanic people, like just erupt, and everybody's up singing the song
Yeah.
that y'all recorded, what, 25 years ago. I'm
25
like,
years.
man, that's just, it's mind blowing, man. It's amazing. So you're with God's Property,
Uh-huh.
then you transition
Uh-huh.
and you launch Levi. So how did that come about?
Man, so after God's Property, I'm singing with Kirk, me, myself, I mean, me, Candy, and another one of our friends, Shanika from God's Property. So that's
Okay,
when we do Rebirth. That's when we do One NC.
one and
Uh,
see. Okay,
and so after that, and just the other part of it, and this, this could be a whole nother lane or segment, a whole nother podcast,
hmm,
is, in music, in business, how do you deal whenever the music, or the structure of it involves multiple people, a group
yeah,
or a business, you have employees, and things don't work out between you and those people. How do
sure,
you navigate through that? How do you move forward?
hmm,
And so,
yeah,
when things ended with God's Property, there always remained, for whatever reason, I'm thankful to God, this level of trust in my leadership. And during
hmm,
those times, we were still singing, around town. And I was like, the world don't need another group. But I knew, once again, going back to my childhood and seeing myself stand out in front of large groups of people, and I,
hmm,
I just knew that I was standing there. And
yeah,
so at that point, I was like, okay, all right, start a group. Okay. Uh,
yeah,
and so I started, the group Levi. And actually, a lot of people may or may not know that all of the original members of Levi were original members of God's Property.
okay,
And so at that point, we were singing, we're going and doing Bobby Jones, Gospel Explosion. We're,
hmm,
I'm recording more songs. And then I sent some of my songs and a video to EMI Gospel. And
hmm,
they, took a chance on me, and we get the Set Me Free record. And,
wow,
I
classic
tell
record,
people two things. I realized during my number one, I realized that, and this speaks to inside the church and even in business and whatever lane and you're in life. There
yeah,
has to be a season of sowing. There has to be a season
mm,
where you follow before you
yeah,
lead. You
before you
can't
can lead, right,
really equipped to lead if you haven't followed, if you haven't
right,
served, or if you haven't sold. And so I realized early on, going back to the time in DFW, because when I presented that song to DFW, I never shall forget that night, because it was called New Music Monday. After I presented the song, I went to the back of the church, and Kirk, at that point, he was just one of the choir directors. He was like, "You got talent. I'm gonna take you up under my wing." For whatever reason, that was a junior in high school, and our
wow,
relationship and mentorship mentee relationship continues to this day. And so, during that time, I said, okay, hey, let's do a record. And one of the things that I so enjoyed, a is I realized all those years singing with Kirk, I had gotten comfortable and complacent standing
mm,
in the back,
oh
knowing
yeah,
for a while that God had called me to lead.
called you
And
to
so at
lead,
that
right,
point, coming to grips with that, and then when I do the Set Me Free record, one of the most freeing things about that record for me was there was no there was no pre-existing record to kind of say, okay, you got to live up to this or you got to be.
right,
So it was
yeah,
me just kind of sharing my heart. I tell people when I wrote Set Me Free, I just sat down at the piano, and the songs, the majority of the songs that I write don't come like this, but that one all came in one setting.
wow,
So I'm downloading that. I remember I was walking somewhere and "Redeem" just comes to my mind. Oh, I have
yeah,
been. And so at that point, it was just a pureness of me just being able to share what
Yeah.
was on my heart to share. And it was also a measure of healing for those of us that had kind of went through the thing with God's property. So there were a lot of, the things that I believe the Lord was accomplishing through our time, in Levi, but it was me really heeding the understanding of God saying, I called you to lead. All right. And me understanding that there was a level of healing that needed to happen with our group of friends that was in God's property. And so, I was thankful. I remember it was what Robert, Jermaine Nelson, Jonathan DeBose, and
Mhm.
the first time we went in the studio that night and recorded "Set Me Free," I was like, "This ain't it.
That ain't gonna do it.
This ain't it." Because I knew it was something different. It was,
Yeah.
and so at that point, just I think from a pursuing your passion standpoint, it's one thing that I've come to learn is that your passion is birthed out of what you have a burden for. If you have a burden
That's
to
good.
speak to or a burden to serve a thing, that's where your passion is birthed
Yeah.
out. And I think, to your point, you do have to have the courage
Yeah.
to say, hey, I don't know, what success is going to look like, as it relates to this. I just know that I have a passion, a desire, a burden to do this.
Yeah.
And I think you have to trust God, trust, the God in you enough to walk
Hmm.
out and to do it. And I
Yeah.
would tell that to the musician, to the architect, to the doctor, to playwright, to whomever.
Hmm.
Trust the God in you to do what is inside you.
What's inside of you? That's so good, man. I was thinking when you said, when you had the courage to launch out and do start Levi, I was thinking about a quote from Denzel when he says that ease is the greatest hindrance
Come on.
to growth and success. And a lot of times I think where we go wrong is we know that there's more inside of us, but
Yep.
because we know that it's gonna maybe push us past our limit. They say in order to grow, you have to be made uncomfortable, right? You
Absolutely.
have to be stretched. I think about those that are really successful, and one of the greatest differences between successful people and everyone else is their ability to be uncomfortable, their ability to be
Amen.
stretched. And so you were, with Kurt Franklin, kind of singing background, and in a very, I mean, you guys had a lot of success really early, a very promising situation, and you to walk away from that and start your own thing. I can imagine how much courage that took, and maybe even some battling inside of yourself. Should I actually do this? I mean, this is a proven formula over here,
Right.
but you're wanting me to go and do like so. So what you said is so key, like trusting the God in you
Mhm.
to do whatever He's called you to do. I think that's so good, man. I think that's
Absolutely.
so good.
And
Uh,
I just want to piggyback. I think
sure.
sometimes what people will misinterpret the seasons of being uncomfortable
Yeah,
as this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, or
that's good. Yeah,
this ain't working.
yeah,
And a lot of times the disease or the uncomfortability is
yeah,
there for you to dig in, for you to roll up your sleeves and
for
commit
sure.
to it. And I think a lot of times we would do well not to just forfeit just because there's opposition. There's always going to be opposition. There's
For
always going
sure.
to be the what if. There's always going to be the doubt. There's always going to be the uncomfortableness, because if you can just sit back and just willy nilly, then at that
Right.
point, is it really worth having if you can just not do anything and get
Not
it?
doing it
No,
right.
you need to be able to stick to working for that God has called you to do.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And you actually kind of spoke to my next question because I was going to ask you about consistency because um, I think a lot of times as people, we fall in love with the end or finished product.
Hmm.
But I think if you're going to be successful, you have to fall in love with the process.
Absolutely.
I love the slogan that the Philadelphia 76ers have when they say, trust the process,
Yeah.
because you really have to love the process because when you're only focused on the end goal, if it's not coming fast enough, if it's not happening maybe like your neighbor, then it's like, well, this might not be meant for me, or
Right.
and so I'm wondering, you're having an amazing career. You You've been in the game for a very long time, but I'm sure that every day wasn't sunshine for you. And
Not at all.
so talk a little bit about, how was it in terms of having to be consistent and push through maybe with some of those closed doors or some of those broken relationships in the industry and those discouraging moments. What was that like for you?
Well, to your point, I think it was for me like the greatest teacher. To your point,
Mm,
to the Philadelphia 76ers, the learning comes during the process.
that's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
if there's no process and there's just the end result and you get a win, like what do you ever learn?
What did you learn? That's right.
How do you grow? And so for me, it was to have the discipline, the
Mm,
discipline to be comfortable in the seasons where there's hurt, where there's, it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out.
yeah.
But I think one thing that helped me was even in seasons of discomfort or second guessing or God is this, there was, it was kind of like this underbelly kind of knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do. And so
Mm,
for me, it didn't diminish, the feeling down or when things
yeah.
didn't work or when the obstacles after obstacle is there. But
Yeah.
even in the midst of it, it was a knowing that never went away. And that's the
Mm,
thing that drove me. That's the thing that forced me to be consistent. It's like I don't have an other option because
no other
I
option.
know
Right.
this is what I'm purposed to do. So if I do
Yeah.
anything else, then I'm operating outside of what I'm called to do. So how
Mm,
could I do that and think that I'm going to be successful? Huh?
right.
So
Right.
for me, it was the knowing that, like I said, didn't make the obstacle or the disappointment any less hurtful,
Sure.
but it allowed me or it gave me perspective in the midst of it. It was always in the midst of it all, when there was opposition, when there was, whatever, it was God, what am I supposed to learn from this? What are you trying
Mm,
to teach me in the midst of that? And so for
right.
me, that was what propelled my consistency and my discipline. And I think early on, and when I would, talk to songwriters and teach songwriters, I would tell them, songwriting is a trade that you cannot expect to be successful if you are not acquainted with the word no.
I
Not
like that.
acquainted with disappointment and no and closed doors.
Yeah.
Don't try to be a songwriter. Mm-mm.
Mm,
Because it just comes with the territory.
comes with it. Right.
Me, those things help me, remain consistent and help
Hmm.
me perspective in the midst of the up and down of life. And I think that's the thing, when you kind of pull back and look at it from 30,000 feet, everything looks like
Yeah.
success. But when you kind of
Yeah.
drill down on the ground,
Hmm.
you realize that, there are seasons of no calls, there's seasons of
Right.
no records, which helps you appreciate, when there's the project that has this, that's extremely successful, and you got
Right.
to have all of that.
You
You
got to have
don't
all
get
of
to
it.
pick and choose. You don't
Right.
get to pick and choose because if it's all things work together for good, then that's
Yeah.
good and bad. Hello,
Yeah.
and so not to frame it in church, but we church kids, and so at
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's like if understanding that some kind of way God is going to make this bad situation work for good, then
Yep.
at the end of the day, hey, we get an umbrella because it's raining today. God
That's right.
ordered rain today,
That's right.
and it's better to be in a difficult situation with God
There
than
you
an
go.
easy situation without God.
Without that's facts, man. You preaching. That's good. That's so good, man. No, I agree. I agree. And so it sounds like what I hear you saying is really all about the perspective, and
Absolutely,
just understanding that it's a part of the process.
absolutely.
So no, that's so good. Just a couple more questions, man. I'm gonna get you out of here. I want to talk about comparison
Ooh,
because a buddy of mine, a friend of mine, Mike Holloway, he's a great singer. I had him on previous episode, and he said something. He said, "Comparison kills courage."
yep.
And I think about the space and the time that we're in the society where, everything is social media driven. It's like it's almost hard not to compare when things are constantly being thrown in your face.
Yep.
And so as an artist where you're in a very competitive and very saturated and demanding field in
Yep.
music, how do you fight against that comparison element?
Yeah. I think you're right. There are a couple of things, and I'll try to kind of stay on the straight and narrow because I believe that there's a double-edged sword to, our social media world, that things are
Mm,
so vision that we live in an attention economy.
yeah.
And a byproduct of that is the same thing that happened with Adam and Eve. We know
Mm,
God gave them, the instructions, and then the
that's
enemy
right.
came in and said, "Well, hath God said?" And that was to divert or taint or manipulate their attention or
That's
their
good.
focus or what God had given to them. And I think for me, early on, yes, do you battle with it? Of course, because when you open up Instagram, when you open up Facebook, or when you look on YouTube, you see others, and it's like, oh, kind of thing. So that's
Right.
the natural. But for me, and I love what your friend Mike said, that comparison kills courage. And also for me, it was, if I relish in comparison, looking at others and wanting what they had, then for me, it's like I'm slapping God in the face and saying, I don't
Mm,
like what you gave me.
I don't like that. Yep, that's good. That's good.
And to understand that the gifts and calling that God gave me, the things that God has allowed me to experience, one of the things that has kept me in the most humble position is I realized it didn't have to be me. You
That's
know,
good.
Bradenton is full of dirt roads and strawberries and mangoes. There's no way that I should have, been, here and on this stage and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's understanding that God, in His own strategic way,
Yeah.
navigated my life, gave me the set of abilities that He gave me to accomplish what He has for me to accomplish. And I think that's the thing. It's
That's
understanding
it.
that God has a specific assignment for all of us. I
That's it.
believe it with every fiber of my being. And so at
Yeah.
that point, and I think that there is no greater or lesser. It's not that the
Right.
person that's on the stage at the Grammys has a greater, value than the
Right.
person that is standing in front of 50 people in their local church. It's the
Right.
same thing. I
Same thing.
believe with all that's in me that I was gifted to serve. And at the
Right.
moment that I allow myself to relish or to languish in the season or in the position of looking at this person and
Yeah.
measuring what they have against or what I have against what they have, at
Right.
that point, I step back and I said, well, are they the standard or is what God has for me to do the standard?
Yeah.
So at that point,
That's good.
for me, how I combat that on an ongoing basis, and what I want to let the viewers know is that it's not something that you ever overcome and never have to deal with. You just get
Mm,
better at checking yourself.
for sure.
For me, it's about being honest with myself and say, Myron, you spending too much time looking. Turn
Right.
it,
There you go. There you
you know,
go. Knowing how to turn that thing off. Right.
turn it off, and understand once again, there is an assignment. There
Yeah.
are souls that before I was created, God ordained for me to be able to speak into their life.
That's
And at
good.
that, and He equipped me with everything I need to speak into those people's lives. And so
That's
it's
right.
understanding at that point, if this is my purpose, if this is the destiny that God has for me, then at the end of the day, I need to be able to celebrate. I need to be able to applaud others, but
Yeah.
never to the point to where it's like, I want what they, and it's just, it's you kind of have to be careful because then that whole Lucifer thing gets in there. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
you had all this, but you wanted
Yeah.
more,
You want
and
more.
it's
Right.
never enough. And so for
Right.
me, it's that balance. It's being honest with checking myself and
Yeah.
understanding that this is something that I will have to contend with as long as I'm in this flesh.
For sure. For sure. No, that's good, man. That's so powerful. Well, listen, I want to get you out of here on this one,
Mhm.
because you kind of alluded to this already when you said that every person on this earth that was created with a purpose,
Absolutely.
whether they believe it or not.
Mhm.
God put a set of gifts
Hmm.
and skills and
Yep.
passions
Yep.
inside of all of us. But I want you to speak to the person that understands that. They understand that I was gifted. I was born with the purpose. I know that I'm called to do something greater than what I'm doing. I want to be able to wake up every day and say, man, I love what I do, or man, I get paid to do this. I can't believe this is my life. In
Mhm.
whatever capacity that is. For some, it may be teaching. For some, it
Yeah.
may be owning a coffee shop or whatever it is. But maybe they just have no idea where to start,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just getting started. Sometimes that can be like you don't always have those resources around you to kind of speak into your life, or kind of so I want you to just maybe speak to that person that they know that there's something more,
Hmm.
but they don't know where to start. Like, I'm confused as to where to even get started.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's understanding that God put a purpose and a destiny inside of each of us.
Yeah.
And I think if we're honest, we spend more time trying to figure out or to ascertain our purpose through natural methods. Well, if
Speak to
I go
that.
and do this, if I go and do this, if I this and this and this, and we'll spend a lot of time. Yes, I believe faith without works is dead being alone. But as it relates to purpose, so if we break down purpose, I love Miles Monroe's book. He talks about purpose. It's like,
Yeah.
the creator of this MacBook understood the purpose or the intended use for
Sure.
this piece of technology.
Yeah.
So why would you go to a construction worker to figure out the purpose of this Mac? No, you go
Right.
to the creator of this
The
Mac,
creator.
understand the purpose. And so for me, the starting point is prayer. And I know that sounds like the churchy,
No, but that's
cliche,
real.
but it's real. It's
Yeah.
real. And I think the other thing that I would always be careful to do when it comes to purpose is to say, God, okay, yes, I understand my desires. I understand, I would like to do this. But when it comes to purpose, it has to supersede my wants
Yeah.
and my desires.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of times we think our purpose is aligned with, oh, I like to do this. I like,
What? Right. Exactly.
it is, but sometimes,
Sometimes that's just a hobby. That's just something
there
you
you,
just admire, or it's a hobby.
there you go. And so
Yeah.
it's knowing the difference. And I think to understand the difference, to understand what are my first steps?
Yeah.
I think for me, it starts with prayer. I think it starts with communing with God, saying, God, this is where I have a burden. Show me
Yeah.
if this is truly my intended purpose. And
Yeah.
I believe that level of sincereness, I believe that level of pureness of heart, God honors that. And I
Yeah.
think also it's understanding that, yes, you because I think the other thing that would always, and I'll talk about it from a music standpoint, in music, you feel like, you got to be in a certain geographic location, or I got to be in LA, or I got to be in New York, or I got to be in Chicago, or, I got to be in the right place and know the right people
Yeah.
and rub elbows with the right. No, God is aware of wherever you are on the backside of the desert. He knew
That's
where David
facts.
was. He knew where
Yep.
David was.
Right.
And so
That's
if
true.
that be the case, then at that point, it's God in your own time. Let me let me be confident, let me be patient, let me be, let me not forfeit the seasons of preparation. So
Yeah.
for me, those initial things start with prayer. It starts with continuing in seasons of preparation, and
That's good.
understanding that in God's own perfect time, the gift will make room for you. He will align you rightly with your purpose, but you have to
Yeah.
stay close to him and not, so close to your own understanding of what like to do yourself.
That's amazing, man. I love that. I love that. So starting with prayer, preparing in your season of,
Absolutely.
because there's nothing worse than
Uh-oh.
opportunity knocking
Uh-oh.
and
And
you're not prepared.
you ain't ready.
You ain't
Come on.
ready, because those opportunities may not come back. So,
Absolutely.
um, No, that's good, man. Listen, Myron, I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
So what's next? What you got coming up next?
Yeah, so it's time for another Myron Butler and Levi record. So
Can we say it's been time? Can we just? I mean, I'm just like there are some artists. There are some artists that I follow that I'm just like I just feel like you should put out a record every 6 months. Like I'm just like
every 6 months.
every 6 months. So I just saw. So I love Brandy. Brandy is a great singer, and I just
Okay,
saw where she's about to do a Christmas record, and I was
absolutely.
like, man, about time. And so when I
Yes.
was going through your catalog, I was like, all right, Levi, we need to come on. Let me get another one of these records. So that's
Yes.
awesome, man. That's
Yes. So
awesome.
that's what we're working on now. So
Yeah.
2024 we'll have another Myron Butler and Levi record, and just thankful to be able to share it. It's also, I also have a burden to equip the next generation of songwriters. So I'm trying to figure out the right configuration for me to bring back my SCORE Songwriters Conference. So those are what we will be working on in 2024.
That's what's up, man. I really appreciate that about you, man. Like your willingness to pour into the next generation. I
Yes.
remember when I met you, man. I just randomly reached out to you. I was like, "Hey, man, will you mentor me?" And I just knew you was gonna be like, kind of hit me with the, "I'm a little busy, bro." But she was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I was like, "What?" So,
Yes.
man, no, I appreciate your brotherhood, your mentorship over all these years, man. I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to. So, where can we follow you? Where can we connect with you?
Yes.
Social media.
Yeah, so on social media, on Instagram, it's Mr. M Butler. On Threads, it's Mr. M Butler. On Facebook, it's Myron Butler and Levi.
Yeah,
And on X or Twitter, or whatever Elon is calling it,
yeah,
it's Myron
right.
Butler as well.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate that. Well, listen, it's been another episode of the Courage Chronicles. I know you guys enjoyed this episode. I appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, like it, and share it with your family, with your friends. I really hope that you feel inspired. I hope that you feel encouraged because that's really the whole point of why we're here.
Yeah.
We're trying to inspire everyone to just find your purpose and
Yeah.
just go pursue it because there is nothing worse than leaving this earth and you
Mm.
never gave it all you had. You
Mm.
never you never you guys have heard me say Les Brown say the graveyard is the richest place on earth.
Yeah.
So I really hope that this interview has inspired you, has encouraged you. So until next time, we'll catch you all later. Y'all be good.